Hi, this is the Clinical Research Diva, me, Erica. Today I wanted to talk to all the physicians out there and also medical practice managers or office managers, but primarily want to reach out to the physicians out there and talk to you about clinical trials. I know I've talked to doctors who haven't worked in clinical trials, and for some, when you bring it up, their initial thought is, well, that's extra work, and that's just extra. But I think that the attitude is changing across medicine, and many practices and institutions are learning the importance and the need for clinical research. And so I just want to share with you, doctors and physicians and office managers out there, some of the reasons why it's a great investment to start clinical trials. First of all, it diversifies your revenue because now you have the ability to bring income into your practice through clinical trials. And that's obvious, and it's just different. And how the industry works with that. So it's just a way to diversify your income stream. But also, it keeps you on the cutting edge of medical research. I mean, we all have access to, in this industry, we have access to medical journals and information, and we have colleagues that are into research, and we know little tidbits from them. But be on the front line for yourself, be on the front line. This is how many of you this is the thing that really moves me, that I've encountered many physicians who work in rural areas, whose practices are in underserved communities. They're in minority communities where people don't have a lot of access to medical care due to poverty, just living at the poverty level, not having insurance. And they have engaged in clinical trials as a way to meet the medical needs of many of these underserved communities. Um, it's to me a measure of compassion to do clinical trials and to offer that to your patients and to become leaders in the industry, to speak up and say what's going on in your communities. And I've encountered doctors who become parts of boards that put together protocols or review protocols, and they're able to say, this will work, this won't work. We need to do this, we need to change that. It gives you a voice on another level in medicine. That's what one of the things that working in clinical trials can afford you to do. Additionally, it opens up your employees to just different opportunities. I've encountered many sites where they decide to do clinical trials, and I tell them you don't have to run out and hire someone who has thousands of years of clinical research experience. If you have a dedicated uh, medical assistant or dedicated RN who's highly organized and cares about this work, they can be trained to initially start out and do clinical trials until you grow to the place where you can hire additional people, maybe some with a little bit more experience. But it just gives your employees an opportunity to experience something different and grow in their own careers. And so that's something that you can afford them. It also gives your patients options. It opens you up to patients that may never have come to you in the first place. I've found in talking with doctors, statistically, a lot of patients that come in just for a clinical trial tend to stay with the doctor after the trial is over, and they become their primary care or their specialist care in that area. So it gives you an opportunity to tap into a population that may not have come to your office, that may not have encountered you had it not been for clinical trials. So those are just a few of the many, many reasons. I also want to say that I don't want to diminish the work that goes into running trials or starting to run trials, but I can honestly tell you, if you already have a practice going, up and going, it is not like rocket science to switch over and to begin to do clinical trials because you've already got most of the equipment, you've already got the facility. So it's really just tweaking it and adding the layer, that extra layer that clinical trials adds. And you can get a consultant to do that for you, or you can and it'll be set up and it'll be correct. You can get assessed to see, how long your transition would take to move from just being a practice to being a practice and a site. And the investment can be minimal to start. And then once you get to going, you just kind of expand like any business, like you did your own practice. It's so like I want the takeaway that I want you to have here is that it's not terribly, terribly hard to make that transition if it's something that you've been thinking about. I encourage you to look at additional videos on my channel for some further guidance. Put questions in the comments area and I'll be glad to answer them for you. But it is something that you can do. I want you to walk away encouraged, knowing that it's not impossible and it's not going to take 30 years to do it. It can be done relatively quickly and it can be done efficiently, and you can have a quality site. So that's what I want you doctors and practice managers to understand, that you can have this. You can do this. It's worth it on so many levels. On the level of giving your patients care, on the level of growing your employees, on the level of just growing your knowledge and putting yourself on the edge of medical science. It's just so much. It's such a benefit. I really would not have stayed in this for over 20 years if it wasn't beneficial and it wasn't worthwhile. And nothing gives me more pleasure than to see when doctors start up and start doing trials. I mean, you don't have to start with 10 trials. I've had sites that only ran 2 or 3, really solid trials, and they ran them well. And, as time went on, they grew. I mean, I've had practices that had to move to larger spaces, not because of the practice, but because of the clinical research side growing well and prospering. So I just want, again, like I said, I just want to encourage you to make that move, to start that process. Please give a thumbs up if you found this helpful. Subscribe to get more information. And of course, leave any comments or questions in the comment section for me, and I'll be glad to get back to you. Thanks very much. Have a good day.